Hey, hello guys, welcome to my podcast. Today I'm gonna be reviewing the Ant-Man movie, or at least just my initial thoughts. A lot of people are saying that the movie wasn't that good, and it wasn't perfect. But I think that the reason why people are saying that the movie isn't good is essentially because they had high expectations for the villains and the stakes, which I don't know if it had something to do with like the marketing and the way that it was delivered in the trailers and stuff. But essentially, I think that it fell flat for a lot of people because they essentially expected this movie to be what saves the MCU, because Phase 4, a lot of the movies weren't received very well by the fans. Um and this movie, to me, I think was actually a huge step up from Phase 4. But I do see why people had their negative thoughts on it. So yeah, let's just get right into it. So the movie was essentially picks up after the events of Endgame. I don't exactly know how much time has passed, but Scott Lang is pretty much narrating his life, and now he's famous, and Cassie's all grown up, and Cassie is actually an activist, and the call to action is pretty much Cassie getting arrested and telling her dad, like, hey, like, I'm doing this for the people who were affected by the blip, like, you should be doing more. And essentially everybody's just bagging on Scott, and Cassie shows him the device she was building, and it was actually a map, like a device that's supposed to map the quantum realm and stuff. And essentially they all get trapped in the quantum realm, and that's where the movie pretty much picks up. And yeah, like, this movie really gives Star Wars feels like it gives you kind of like Star Wars vibes. And Kang is essentially being set up as this great villain. And I do agree with the people saying that Kang, he was mostly exposition. It's like all tell no show. Like, you're supposed to kind of show like the pinch and everything. And if you guys aren't familiar with the pinch in terms of screenplay and writing and all that stuff, the pinch is essentially the villain doing something really like bad, like Thanos. I think the pinch was it could have been like the introduction, you where he kills Loki, that's the pinch. But also when he kills Gamora, those things like show that, hey, like, this guy means business. And Kang didn't really do that for me personally. I think that Jonathan Majors did a good job portraying kind of like this broken guy who feels like an outsider, like he's trying to stop something worse than him by doing something equally as bad, which is killing other timelines, which is why Janet like abandoned him. And I think that they probably did this because this is the first movie to start off like essentially the multiverse saga, because Phase 4 was like setting up that the aspects of the multiverse, and now this is, I think, where the multiverse saga kicks in a high gear. So this is essentially like the Avengers 1 of it all. But what the Avengers did so well, was, that's a fire truck, by the way, if you guys can't hear. What the Avengers did so well was it had stakes, and it had progression of the story, progression of the characters. Granted, like, you can think of it like it took me a bit of thinking, like, what essentially did Scott or Hope, get out of this. And I was like, all right, so they started the movie essentially the same place where they ended it, which is kind of different from the leaks that said otherwise, that Hope and Scott was gonna get stuck in the quantum realm, which that wasn't really the case. Like, they were immediately brought out by Cassie, which I think, at least it wasn't depressing. Like, it is, the Ant-Man movies are still supposed to be like fun, lighthearted kind of thing, but this movie was marketed as kind of the exact opposite. So, like being fair, I think that like in that respect, I think that's where it faltered, and what turned a lot of people off after seeing the movie for the first time was the way it was marketed. Was this kind of like complete 180 of the franchise, like an Avengers level threat. Like, think about the first Avengers, Coulson literally died. Okay, the second Avengers, Quicksilver died, and the team's kind of like, met with a new status quo, a new Avengers team. Avengers 3, the snap. Avengers 4, the OGs are pretty much like there is no, or at least what they said was, right now in the current state of the MCU, there is no Avengers team. So if you think about it that way, like if this is like the Avengers 1 of the multiverse saga, which to me it feels like that's essentially what they're doing, there's no progression of the Marvel universe or multiverse or whatever you want to call it. We were introduced to a bunch of new characters. We were introduced to the quantum realm. This movie just was an exposition of sorts, because we all know Kang's not dead. He's not dead. Like, he's somewhere outside the multiverse at this point. Who knows, right? But if you think about it, he's not dead. Like, what happened in this movie? Scott, literally at the end, he was starting to get concerned. Like, hey man, like what did that mean when he said that if you kill me, everybody else is gonna kill everyone, and basically everyone he sees, like, as he's walking down the park or down the street, is pretty much dead, right? What does that mean? Like, what like, they're building up tension, but they didn't pay it off in any way in the movie. Okay? And I think that's why, playing devil's advocate, that's why a lot of people didn't like this movie. But now let's talk about the positives of this movie. Okay? Phase 4 wasn't really the best, okay? A lot of people tried their best to see the good in it. People, were praising Shang-Chi. People were praising, Loki. People were praising WandaVision. And I think that they're there, okay? That's all I'm going to say, because I think Phase 4 was a product of the time that it was made, which was during the height of COVID, which is understandable. Aside from, what people call the woke culture. I think that wokeness is okay if it serves the story. If you add, a cultural wokeness, and, being an Asian American myself, Shang-Chi should have felt magical, but it didn't. To me, it felt like them cramming a whole bunch of stuff that they thought people wanted to see. And, granted that it's an Asian American movie, people are like, hey, let's support this, because this is like, we get representation from this. And I get that, but to me, Shang-Chi was an okay movie. In fact, it probably wasn't even... It's not in my top, for sure. It's not in my top. Nothing in Phase 4 was my top. To say that, okay? But the closest thing would be Multiverse of Madness. Closest thing, but even then, that movie could have been way, way, way better. Like it was nowhere near as good as the first Doctor Strange movie. And I know that they're trying to do something different. And Werewolf by Night was also decent. It was good. It was building something up. That in and of itself, and that's because it's in like its own separate kind of like monster, like the realm of monsters in the MCU, which I get. That was good. But I think Quantumania is up there. It's a huge step up from Phase 4, I think. Personally speaking, the vibes of the movie, the writing. This is the first movie that got me excited. Like, got me excited during the promotion, when I was watching the movie. Like, heck, all of my friends, like, loved the movie, Quantumania. So, this is definitely a mixed bag. And I think that Quantumania, I don't know if it has the capacity to be, like, Spider-Man 3, where, decades later, people are going to be like, oh, man, this movie was actually pretty darn good. I think that, I don't know if that has that capacity, but it's definitely a mixed bag. Like, think, I don't know, Age of Ultron, maybe Age of Ultron. I wouldn't say Zack Snyder though, because I think that this movie is its own thing for sure. It's a fun movie, dude. Like, it's a really fun movie. It's a feel good movie. And that's what watching movies is about, like it was epic. Like, it was epic in scale. It was it was world building, which is what drew people to the Marvel universe in the first place, right? And it really propelled like the Marvel universe in a direction, only to bring it back, right? That's the whole issue with the movie. Like, it brought you there. You could have left Hope and Scott in the quantum realm. You could have left them there, which is what I think would have been really amazing. But you brought them back. It's like the yo-yo. Like, you launched them and then you came back. That's the whole issue a lot of people are having. But everything else was great. I had no problem with the Ant City or whatever. Although, they said things that a lot of people may not have agreed with, like the line by Scott by Hank Pym regarding, I'm not even gonna say it out loud, but a lot of people were not, okay with that. But the whole quantum realm was just rich, and the story was this. I think if they started if they just like got rid of all the movies before and just skipped to Phase 5, and then I think that it would have been better. It's just the amount of time between Endgame and this, but I get it. And yeah, with that, I will give this movie a lot of people are giving it like low scores, so I'm just gonna give it a 9 out of 10. It was a great movie. I just simply addressed the issues that a lot of people had, and as well as my issues. But ultimately, this movie was fun. The music was great. Kang, I feel that he's a great villain, but they didn't really show that. Because, like, this is the Avengers 1 of it all. This is like Thanos. Like, you see Thanos looking off in space, summoning Loki. Like, Loki is essentially MODOK in this case. I didn't even talk about MODOK, but I'll probably save that for another time. This movie was just like, to me, Marvel's back for sure. They just need to stop being scared of like the critics and just like cut the yo-yo. Yeah, I need to make a shirt called "Cut the Yo-Yo." Thank you so much for listening, and have a stay tuned for my my future podcast.